Hey everybody, today we're going to be talking about the movie that you have seen the most and why. I really like this topic because I have been known to, in my childhood, to watch movies a concerning amount of times. I may not have had a life when I was a child, but it certainly served me well as an adult. But I am often interested in the types of movies that we can watch over and over and over again. But before we get into that, I'm going to plug my website. As always, it is deepfocuslens.com. I'm an artist. I do commission portraits, and I also sell prints of my work. If that is something that you're interested in, you can always go to the website below. And if you have a question about a commission or a print, you can always email me. My email is in the description box below as well. And the first one, The Holy Mountain, feels like one of the only good reasons to be looking at a TV screen while on psychedelics. It is a good movie to watch on psychedelics. The first time I ever saw it, I was on psychedelics myself, which, I was holding out for that because I didn't want to watch it sober the first time. And yeah, it's a fantastic movie to watch. Obviously, pretty much anything that Alejandro Jodorowsky does is going to be like that. He is the kind of psychedelic king, but I don't know if I would pick this as like the number one thing that I want to watch on psychedelics. I think I prefer things that are preaching to you a little bit less. Obviously, that's the whole point of this. This one is very blatant in a lot of the things it's trying to communicate, but I think overall I like stuff that is maybe a little bit more abstract in tone and maybe less on the nose. But, again, the whole point of this movie is to be on the nose. But something like El Topo, I think, is maybe a more interesting type of psychedelic journey that you can have because you can really disappear into the experience and in a more interesting way. There are tons of movies that, I like to talk about in regards to psychedelics, but certainly a good one that you've picked. And it is a movie that is good with repeated viewings. Wayne's World. Had it on VHS growing up, and it just captured everything I wanted in life as a kid and basically recreated as a teen. It's still probably my favorite feel-good film. The music kicks ass, comedy holds up, and I just wanted to live in that world. Led to many good times driving around with my high school best friend in his junk Camaro that we painted with shark teeth on the side and feeling like there was no better place to be. Oh, that's great. See, I love stories like that. I'm very similar when it comes to Wayne's World. Even the second one I have seen way too many times. And it is very nostalgic. Naturally, I do think there are better comedies, better like satires on, music, especially punk rock and that sort of thing, rock and roll. I did the same thing, man. When I was in high school, I used to have all my friends in my car, my 1997 Honda, and we would listen to, Queen, obviously, Bohemian Rhapsody, and do the entire thing just like they did in the movie. But I will give it to the movie. It is very simple in its execution, and, there's something that is very satisfying about that, and it is the little details. It adds a lot of little things like what you mentioned. It's like, your friends all meeting at the donut shop, or, like the thing where they're playing hockey in the street and yelling car. Oh, that's something that I used to do with my best friend all the time. This sort of like misbehaving in front of the big bad establishment. There's something that is fun about that, certainly. And Wayne and Garth they're a dynamic duo and they're a lot of fun. That's a toss-up between the original Star Wars trilogy and the Lord of the Rings trilogy. When I was younger, it was Star Wars. Why? Same reasons as everybody else. I thought it was awesome. At 8 years old, no other reason was needed to watch them over and over. In my teenage years, it was Lord of the Rings. Being older, you would think there would be a more nuanced reason to watching them so many times, but nope. I just thought they were awesome and fun to put on TV. I used to have them on even while I was doing something else in my room or around the house. There were those old familiar movies that didn't require my full attention to enjoy them, probably because I knew them by heart. It's been years since I've seen any of those films of either series. Maybe they're due for another look. Yeah, it is really fun to go back. Obviously I reviewed Lord of the Rings last year, and I'm in the process of reviewing all the Star Wars movies currently, and it's been really an amazing experience for sure, but I'm right there with you. I have pretty much almost the exact same experience. I was introduced to Star Wars when I was maybe 6 years old, and the rest is history. It is the reason for everything. My story is just as cliche as it comes, for sure. Star Wars changed everything. It made me, fully be interested in movies in a way that I had not been before. And I've probably seen just collectively the originals and the prequels more than maybe anything else except for Lord of the Rings. I think it's probably pretty close in there between the two of them. But yeah, Star Wars, there's not a frame that I don't know. There isn't a single moment that I haven't experienced a million times, I swear. And yes, in the teen years, Lord of the Rings made sense because, naturally it was like our parents had Star Wars, and, that did change the way that movies were made. So naturally, Lord of the Rings was our Star Wars. Like you, now that I'm an adult, I would have liked to see Lord of the Rings be more nuanced. I'd like to have seen it be more, like artistic in style and much more something that fits along with Tolkien. But that said, it made sense why it was a lot more like Star Wars, and it needed to be more escapist entertainment because of just, the way the industry had shaped. Both are wonderful trilogies, and both just completely shaped, different generations. The millennials, absolutely. That's what Lord of the Rings was for us. And I think that, the special features in particular, especially on those extended editions, they're just phenomenal. And same with like the prequels, all that. We got to see the making of these amazing films. And it's like, yeah, that is what made us probably want to become directors and writers and designers. And, that's all fantastic. Planet of the Apes. I was 7 years old when my father took me to see it for the first time in 1968. As a kid, the makeup, gorillas, riding horses, and shooting guns and action excited me. As I grew older, the themes, dark humor, Goldsmith's otherworldly music, the production design and twist ending just captured my mind and never let go. Everything I love best about sci-fi literature and film is encapsulated here in this one movie. I am so glad that you mentioned it. And I know that Planet of the Apes is a classic technically, and obviously they've made new ones like Rise of the Planet of the Apes and all of that, and they're quite interesting films, but I do in a way feel like Planet of the Apes is a little bit underrated because I saw, not the whole thing, but I watched a bit of it recently, and I was really impressed with it. Yes, I think thematically, those things really do resonate when you're older. I think that I saw it for the first time when I was like on family vacation in like a bed and breakfast or something, and it was on TV, and I watched it with my dad, and I remember the ending being really, interesting, but I was too young to really understand the power of it. But now I think it is one of the best endings in all of science fiction. I think it is just bone chilling. It is phenomenal. And, obviously if you don't know what it is, gosh, like go watch the movie. But I mean, it just, yeah, I dare you to find something that will knock your socks off to that degree. And it is also just very nostalgic. It is so 1960s in style. I mean, what could be more 60s than like a Charlton Heston sort of epic? But yeah, an excellent choice. Stand By Me, watched it for the first time when I was 12 and was hooked. The characters reminded me of my friends and was just just in awe of the film at that age. Not my favorite of all time, but top for sure. Yeah, I remember the first time I saw Stand By Me, and I think like a lot of people, it did capture something. And a lot of it is because of the performances. Those 4 performances by those boys are just really, really excellent. They made them feel so human, so dynamic, and you feel it instantly. It's like the moment they come on screen, they're making dirty jokes, and they're just being rascals. And suddenly it's like, okay, they know how to write kids here. And yes, the feeling of summer in it is just so tangible, but of course it is a wonderful coming of age experience. And in particular, I think River Phoenix just gives a wonderful performance for somebody of that age. Just so mature. And yeah, I don't think it's the best movie of all time, but it is certainly one that is really good. And I've returned to it so many times. And I will say though, there is one scene that I absolutely can't watch, and it's the lard-ass thing. I don't know. Some people have triggers, and I'm not, squeamish when it comes to movies. There are very few things that trigger me in a movie. And yet for some reason, when it comes to just like the overeating, it's just, it makes me feel sick watching it. Just the projectile vomiting, I'm just like, but that is just like a personal thing. That is literally like one of the only things that I refuse to watch. Next one, Remains of the Day. It is a beyond the surface story which flows with every scene having meaningful poignancy and every actor playing their role with conviction. Like an interpretive work of art, I enjoy viewing it at every opportunity since it evokes one to wonder about a path not taken and reflection of the path that was taken. Yes, it's that unrequited feeling, that feeling of so close and yet so far. And I think this film really captures that repression in a way that is really interesting, very delicate. I grew up watching this film, so I had seen it many times as a child. And I think it was one of the first movies that really, I may not have understood this as a child, but it like opened me up and made me realize like, wow, things can be really artistic. I found the music to be beautiful and just the cinematography to be quite beautiful. And yes, the performances. Anthony Hopkins is just, he's just a master. He can do so much with so little. You can feel his heartbreak. You can feel his frustration. And yet He never has to give it to you. Emma Thompson is of course wonderful as always. I liked Hugh Grant a lot in this film as well. But there's just something about those like gothic old mansions that is like a really great place for a movie like this. Everything is so big and full of secrets that are so much bigger than you, and you feel quite small compared to it. And so much of this film is, about its environment and the history of it. And it's, right on the doorstep of World War II. And it's like all of those regrets and everything. It's all personified in this love story. But it's never given to us in an easy way. And there is something just very contemplative, and it's kind of slow moving, but it just pulls you in almost like a really great novel that you're reading on like a gloomy, rainy day or something. And yeah, I think it's got great replay value for sure. I've probably seen Seven Brides for Seven Brothers 100 times or more. It might seem like an odd choice, but when I was a kid, I'd visit my grandmother's. That was one of the only movies she had on VHS. Not generally a fan of musicals, but this one is superb. Completely and totally politically incorrect by today's standards, which just makes it all the more wonderful in my book. Great songs, great dance sequences, when the barn raising sequence in the middle being one of the best I've seen in any musical. Plus, it's the film debut of Julie Newmar, who never looked better. Just a great, great movie. That's a movie I've seen a million times as well. I think just the comedy of it is absolutely fantastic. And, the nature between man and woman is just, yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's very cheeky. And yeah, that big barnyard dance sequence is just, it's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. When I was a kid, TCM was, right at the beginning of things. And my mom and my dad, they would record like all the different movies that would come on. And I remember they recorded like a Rodgers and Hammerstein marathon. So it's like I had The King and I, and then right after I had Carousel, and right after that I had South Pacific. I would watch them over and over and over again. So I have seen so many of those old musicals, and I think that's kind of, part of what started my love for that type of thing. And this was back when they really knew how to make musicals, let me tell you. They really do not know how to make them now, consistently at least. This was at a time when movie stars did have to be able to sing and dance and act a lot of the time. And, all of that shows because the talent is so at the forefront of everything. But yeah, I don't know. I think all of them are such universal stories, and the music is so wonderful. And so, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there are a lot of people that have that nostalgic tie to those type of movies like yourself. Those are a few of them. Some of them are more obvious, some maybe not so much. But let me know in the comments what some of yours are. Thank you guys so much for watching. Over here, you will see my patrons who are fantastic. Guys, thank you so much for your support. If you are interested in supporting, the link for that is below, as well as the rest of my social media information. You can watch more videos here, and you can subscribe if you'd like. Catch you next time.